I was looking in the mirror. Its reflection covers the whole room. But I cannot see you.
Dracula? What's he done to you? Tell me, dear, what's he done to you?
He came to me. He opened a vein in his wrist and he made me drink. I can't die with all that blood on my conscience.
It's alive. It's alive. It's alive.
Something is going to happen. I feel it. I can't get it out of my mind.
You're just nervous.
Good evening, goblins and ghouls, and welcome to the Friday Night Scream Stream. I'm your host, Spakenstein, joined as always by my very good friend, Mr. Evan Sink.
Good evening.
How we doing tonight, Evan?
We are great. It is season 7.
It is season
Kicking it
7.
off.
We are here in the house for season 7. Who would have thought that we could watch so many public domain horror movies to take us even past 5 seasons?
And we haven't given up yet.
No, we haven't been deterred, no matter how. I mean, we've really tested the boundaries last season with how much patience that we have when we watch these movies.
This is a new form of meditation.
Yeah, I mean it is. I mean that this show is an opportunity to take in a very new experience and kind of try to find a oneness, with these movies. That's what I hope. I'm hope that I can bring that on some level to everybody.
Yeah, welcome
here.
to Zen season 7.
Well, I think that's an appropriate moniker for this season. It is definitely not going to try your patience as much. I think it's a little more satisfying and so relaxing. This season's going to be a little more about atmosphere, a little trying to go heavy on the creep factor.
Okay, so this is officially spooky season.
It is pretty much this. I was going to call this spooky season, but the term kind of gets overused just a little bit.
You don't want to blend into the rest of the spooky season.
No, I don't. It's not really. I don't want to get lost in the shuffle. If I couldn't come up with something unique, like, hey, well, it's season 7. We're here for season 7. Summer of Schlock was great. Don't get me wrong. It's nice to have like a themed season, but I wasn't able to come up with a clever name. So if somebody comes up with a good one, Fatmosphere is certainly not what I would call it, Sidelarm, but it's definitely, atmosphere with a big A for sure this season. And, we're going to have our fair share of monsters and mad scientists and all kinds of stuff. And so
what kind of monster are we dealing with tonight?
Well, tonight we are watching a 1933 pre-code horror movie called The Vampire Bat.
Pre-code?
Yeah, pre-code. And the last pre-code horror movie that we watched on this show was Maniac, I believe.
That's been a minute.
Well, it has been a while. I think that was, I couldn't even tell you when that was. But Maniac not only was it pre-code, but it was an exploitation film. So it pushed it even further than just what was acceptable by mainstream standards. I mean, there was nudity in that. That's, not what we're getting with this kind of pre-code, but we're still... No, not full frontal. No. But I mean, again, Maniac got close, and the follow up that I guess we watched that wasn't a horror movie, but Marijuana,
right?
That also had some nudity from it was from the same filmmakers. But this does push some different boundaries. Tonight's film, it plays with gore a little bit more than what you get from a Universal horror movie.
What year is this?
This is 1933. So this is 2 years.
1930s gore.
Yeah, 1930s gore. I mean, again, by that point you'd had Frankenstein, Dracula. Those movies didn't really have
not very gory.
Not gore, not really even blood. Like that. I'm going to count blood as gore. And so that's
you got to start somewhere.
So that's a little more what we'll be dealing with tonight. Hey, The Vampire Bat, you hope that there's going to be blood, right?
I mean, I would hope so.
Pre-code horror film that is definitely an underrated classic. And it's got Lionel Atwill and Wray, who were at this point,
names.
Yeah, Lionel Atwill. We've seen 2 films with him on the show so far: Fog Island and what was the other one? The Gorilla.
Oh,
and it's easy to forget about the Gorilla, right? And Fay Wray we saw last season, I believe, 2 seasons ago in The Most Dangerous Game. She was the love interest who was also being hunted down on the island.
Yeah, not by a giant gorilla that time.
No, unfortunately not. That even came after tonight's film, but yeah, we'll get into all that later. So it's trust me, and I'll go over all the reasons before we get into it why it's overrated. Underrated. Definitely not don't sleep on this one. Trust me, please don't.
This movie is so overrated.
Oh,
everybody knows this one.
No, trust me. This is a gem, so I'm really excited to show. I always like to start our season premieres with a quality movie,
strong movie,
a strong start. So I think we'll be off to the races tonight. Speaking of getting off to the races, we're finally back with our favorite. Our only segment here besides the show itself.
So due to time constraints, we're swapping them out. We can't keep both of them.
No, we really can. That would be double trouble if we did. No, we gotta keep it to one. So but we're excited to be bringing back our segment in which Evan brings us a delicious cocktail to pair with the evening's film, and this little segment is what we call...
What were you drinking?
What are we drinking tonight, Evan?
So for tonight's drink, I've got a different kind of bat in mind because I'm taking us to the baseball game. So when you think of baseball, what kind of flavors do you think about? What comes to mind?
I mean, of course, peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
Okay.
I mean, that's just the,
I thought you were going to say hot dogs.
I've only been to one baseball game in my life.
Yeah, I've never been to one. I imagine that's what you do, right? You get the hot dog.
There were hot dogs. We had a weird thing. Like
Some guy throws peanuts at you from the
We didn't have the traditional experience. My dad got tickets from somebody, and it was we got to be in it wasn't like a box. It wasn't it wasn't Always Sunny style where we snuck into it. But it was this more, it was like that, but it was more open to a lot of people. And so there were a shit ton of hot dogs.
Halfway between there. Was there a buffet?
Yeah, it was basically like a buffet.
Okay.
And yeah, it was sick. But that's not the
They're
traditional...
doing all kinds of stuff over at the baseball game.
Yeah, that was a minor league. It was I don't know, it was the Dash, maybe. It was probably the Dash. Yeah. I think. Who knows?
Well, luckily we're not doing a hot dog themed drink, but if you think baseball, you might think peanuts and Cracker Jack.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't care if I ever get back.
Oh, you rebel, you.
So that's what we have tonight. We have a Cracker Jack inspired cocktail that I'm calling the Baseball Bat. So this is 2 parts American bourbon, of course, the most American of spirits, and 1 part each of butterscotch schnapps and a new flavor on the show. This is macadamia nut liqueur.
That's new?
Well, it's new. It's new to me. It's been around for a while, at least according to this fancy bottle that it comes in.
Ooh.
Like a doorknob for the bottle stopper, which is pretty cool.
My God.
Before we drink the cocktail, I do want to pass this to the host and just let him just smell that, because I've never had this before. Okay. It's kind of a treat.
Yeah, I like that. That's it's not gonna make any sense to say. I mean, because it smells like macadamia nut, but to me, I was trying to what does that smell remind me of? And the first thing I could get to was White Russian. For some reason. So it's kind of, again, it's nutty but milky, but kind of.
Yeah, if you'd like to try some of that just straight, it's
Is it good? Is it good?
It is
like
good.
a nice
It
kind
is
of
good.
yeah, like just a little
taste.
Mm.
Because not to to rave on this too much. Trader Vic's is not paying me to endorse their product, but
What?
they should. I
Oh God.
It gets thumbs up from me. Yeah, what do you think of that?
That's good. So that's the macadamia nut.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could say that was butterscotch. You could have told me that was butterscotch, and
it's got like a sweet, smooth flavor to it.
Yeah, it's smooth is definitely the word for it. It's not harsh.
Mm-hmm.
It's got a full. It's very full. It's got a kind of a full flavor.
Yeah,
like it's
complex.
Feel it. Yes, I feel it expanding. Yeah.
Yeah.
Expanding throughout my.
But so yeah, we've got our nutty liqueur, our sweet butterscotch. So hopefully, maybe this will read as something akin to Cracker Jack, but we're gonna give it a try.
Well, it smells delicious. It smells very good.
It smells like bourbon.
Well, that too.
All right. Well, let's give this a try.
All right.
Cheers, everyone. This is the baseball bat.
Oh, that bourbon. Woo.
It comes through, but that's really not bad.
No, it's pretty smooth overall. Like it's a nice kind of.
It's got the sweetness to it that helps.
Yeah,
that's a pretty sweet cocktail for a bourbon.
Yeah, it definitely helps kind of chill the bourbon out a little bit, and yeah, it's good. It's definitely a sipper for sure.
Yeah, that'll be a sipper.
It'll be good for this movie. It's got kind of a, I don't want to say an old fashioned flavor, but there's just something very like kind of old fashioned to the idea of bourbon and macadamia nuts. I feel like I need a pack of cigarettes to like chain smoke throughout this movie, and then I'll really be in the like 1930s like vibe. So I think the drink is perfect. I think the baseball bat is gonna. I think you knocked it out of the park, Evan. I think that's what you. I think you did. No, it's very good, and I think it'll pair perfectly with the film. And I mean, again, I think the movie itself is like contemporaneous to the time. Like it's supposed to take place in 1933, but it's basically, I mean, it's about these series of vampiric murders in this small German village.
Okay.
And
so like Dracula.
Yeah, and a police detective has to solve the murders with the help of the local doctor. And so it's a little Dracula-esque. I mean, really, this movie does take a lot of, I mean, I guess you could say that there were already tropes established up to that point. A lot of the reviews I read for this movie in my research, it kind of, I kept seeing the same thing of like, oh, this is like a greatest hits of like early 30s horror. And to an extent, I could agree with that because it really does feel like a lost Universal horror movie from the early 30s. Like basically,
okay. I mean,
and there's a reason for that. But basically, I mean, I first saw this movie when I was 13 or 14. And when I like saw it, I was like blown away that I hadn't heard of it. And that I was like, this just feels like it is a Universal horror movie. And the reason is because it was filmed on sets that were used for Frankenstein and The Old Dark House. And so I'll point out some of that during our watch.
okay.
It's
so
not
they cheated.
They did, and this is an independent production from a Poverty Row studio, Majestic. I think Majestic Pictures. And it was made very quickly to kind of cash in on a different kind of 30s horror, which we'll we'll talk about a little bit later. And it really ended up being like much more, they were able to pull off a much more higher quality production than any other Poverty Row studio. And I said this on the mini-sode last week, if I could compare this to anything that we've seen so far in terms of quality from the same time period, it's White Zombie, which 1932, so the year before this, and produced by one of the uncredited, tonight's film was produced by one of the uncredited producers of White Zombie, Phil Goldstone, who's kind of the reason why they were able to film at the Universal backlot and do all these things. We'll get into all that later. And
he's got the keys to the back door.
He did. There's a reason why, and we'll talk about that. There's a lot of interesting trivia with this movie. And that the reasons why this feels like a Universal horror movie, it's not just the sets, it's the cast, it's the people behind the camera, like the writer, like there are so many facets of it that it's like, okay, well, yeah, this, and for all intents and purposes, is an early Universal horror film, but it isn't Universal, and so that's why it flies under the radar, but it is up there, I think.
Hidden gem tonight.
A hidden gem. So I'm really excited to bring this to everybody. Anything before we get into it tonight, Evan?
Is this is this a cult movie, like a cult classic kind of deal? Does anybody know about this movie?
Yeah. I don't think that it, I mean, again, it's flown under the radar. It's not one of the...
It's so underground, it's not even cult classic.
I think it deserves to be more of a cult classic. The thing is, it's just because it's so much like all these, the prominent, like 30s horror film, early 30s horror films that you think of is what comes from Universal, right? It's Dracula, Frankenstein, The Old Dark House, The Black Cat. They like had established a style that it's kind of like what everybody draws from and kind of references. And then things like this, I think it got shown on TV a lot. It is one of those like late night movies. Like that's what I saw in a lot of reviews. People like, this is the kind of movie that you come across at 3 a.m. and you're like, what is this? How have I never heard of this? Like, this is so weird. But it's, I mean, it's
the cheapest time slot.
Yeah. I mean, really, it is kind of got that. That's how I felt the first time I saw it. It's like, what is this? How have I not seen this? This is so weird. And like, it's good. Like, you get it out of the bargain bin. I pull my DVD. That's what I got it for the first time, was on a DVD. It was a double pack with, it was just one DVD with 2 movies on it, but it also had The Devil Bat, which we watched back in season 2, I think.
This is the Bat disc.
It was the Bat disc. Yeah, it was. There was a Bat disc and there was a Frankenstein disc, and I think this will complete like all those movies. So I think I don't remember what the Frankenstein movies were, but we've watched them both. Yeah, I mean this movie is really like kind of a weird, odd movie that is actually good, and I think if it's not a cult movie, it should be. So that's why I'm glad that we're showing it tonight.
Well, we'll start the cult here.
I hope so. I'm firmly in the Vampire Bat cult. I really enjoy this movie. So I think Evan, if you
I'm ready.
Strapped in, then we're gonna kick off season 7 with the Vampire Bat. We're gonna get into it right now. Yeah, two of the names there had already been involved with some Universal horror movies. Again, the producer kind of had some connections at Universal. And in the cast, there's some people that spent time in Universal Horror Films. We'll kind of pick them out as we go along.
What a bunch of players.
They are. They're the players, man.
It's the players. My favorite baseball
Oh.
team.
Oh, them bats. Hey, first time chatter, Timur Korea. Yes, Wray kills it in this, and we'll be watching some a King Kong trailer later, which we haven't seen. We've already watched the main trailer for it a few times.
This is already quite a set. Look at this.
A lot of camera movement. Yeah, that's the Universal backlot European village set. Yep.
I like the movement.
That was a very kinetic opening scene. We don't normally get that with Poverty Row movie.
But how else can we explain these terrible deaths? Von Elst last night, 5 others before him, that's 6 within as many
You
weeks.
recognize him?
Our friends, neighbors that we'd known
He was
for
the
years,
Burgermeister in
drained of their life's
Frankenstein.
blood, found dead in
okay.
bed, lifeless
just,
skeletons of skin and
typecast.
bone.
He really
Vampires
was.
are at large, I tell you, vampires.
Malignant demons who issue forth from their graves in the dead of night to attack their victims and drink the blood from their veins.
Cotton Himmelbrecht, Schneider, don't jest.
That blood-sucking legend belongs in the same category with werewolves and all other peasant superstitions.
But the bats, man, the bats. God, yes, big ones, so.
Oh, now we're switching to bats again.
There was an epidemic of giant bats in Kleinschloss in 1643. And at the same time, there was an outbreak of vampirism.
Rot.
Why, this record from the town archive proved it.
Says
That's
it,
an
not
insult,
proven.
a dismissive
I'll show you.
insult.
I'll show you.
Rot.
Rot.
Here it is.
Instead of bullshit.
And on this day was von Hausmann hanged from a gibbet in the public square after being convicted on a proven charge of vampirism. And on this same day,
We proved
there did occur
it,
the
too.
departure
He
of the bat.
confessed it.
Thousands of horrible flying creatures which infested the town for weeks. And on the night of this same day, February 13, in the year of our Lord,
Love the
1643,
Spanish Dracula.
was
It's
there a
definitely
stake
better.
driven through von
It's also
Hausmann's
long.
heart and his head cut off with a grave digger's shovel. There.
Well, all the
I think
records
I
in the
like,
world can't make me
outside of
believe in
Lugosi,
vampires.
I
There
like
are
Spanish
blood-sucking
Dracula
bats, yes.
more.
In South
you
America,
can't beat
thousands of
Lugosi
miles
in the
from here,
original.
but not in Kleinschloss.
But bats fly. They could fly here. You saw the bodies? All of them. 2 wounds on the neck, right at the jugular vein. 2 wounds on the neck, pierced and spread apart just as if 2 fang-like teeth had bitten through the flesh and right into
Brutal.
the veins. And in every case, a blood clot, 8 inches from the victim's neck. The mark of the feast, the devil's signature.
Does that appear the mark of a human being or a demon's?
God save us, the devil's.
You ought to make a pretty fair meal for a vampire.
Jugular,
But
yeah.
let's be consistent. Are these human vampires
I like it.
or bats?
Get fancy.
Vampires can take the shape of a human or a bat, just as they choose. Oh.
These guys
They're
got an answer
magicians.
for everything.
Yeah, these guys know a lot about vampires.
Well, it doesn't make sense to me.
The whole village is in terror. We live in closed houses, behind locked doors and bolted shutters, not daring to close our eyes, fearful lest this unseen silent death may find us in our sleep, for it is then that it strikes, swiftly, silently, ghastly. My room is tightly closed. The windows are barred, nailed down. Nothing can get in. Nothing.
I don't know, that might be a safety
They tell
hazard.
me vampires can go through stone walls like that.
God save me, so they can. We've got to do something, I tell you. Klein Schloss will become a deserted village.
That's right, I think I read that in a book
I
somewhere.
catch all the bats and drown them in the river.
Carl!
While you're hunting for vampires and chasing bats, I'm looking for a human being. A murderer, a fiend.
Well, then don't jest about it. Do something.
I'm trying to. Every hour, every day, every night since this thing started.
I don't know. Maybe they have a werewolf problem too. I don't know.
Do you hear it? Hear it? Yes. Night after night. Lying awake until dawn. Waiting.
I love how
what?
dramatic these guys are.
I don't know.
That's what I thought.
They really have a lot of energy.
Good night, gentlemen. Don't let the vampires get you.
Ooh,
Wow.
Sick burn. Got him. He got those superstitious fools. Oh my God! Look out!
Ah!
I love that.
We're gonna crash.
So this is a Universal set right here from the old Dark House. Most of the interior of this is from old Dark House sets, which was a Universal horror film. Directed by James Whale the year before this, I think.
Are your kisses dynamite?
Don't you like my kisses?
And that's Faye Ray, of course.
Well, how's my mastermind this evening?
Well, if you want the truth, not so good.
The Burgermeister and his Grand Council still stick to the vampire theory.
Stick to it. Huh. They're quoting history to prove it. I think you and Dr. von Niemann are the only sane people left in the village.
And you? What about you?
Me. Well, I'm beginning to think I'm 7 different kinds of a fool. Murders are being done under my very nose. I must be as blind as the bats themselves. I can't find a single clue.
Oh, but you will, Carl. You will.
Well, I haven't.
Oh, Ruth!
Okay, and I'll go ahead and tell you this is the comic relief, and
Here
it's
comes dear Aunt
the
Gussie.
most critically
Cheer and hope.
divisive
Just
part
what
of
I
this
thought.
movie.
Slaving your life away in this awful place. It hasn't got that nice, clean, wholesome smell of a hospital. How are you, Carl?
Can't be.
Oh, quite well, thank you.
Well, I'm not. This clammy old
She is the
place is
aunt.
bound to give me
Yeah.
pericarditis, enteritis, neuritis.
Where's Andy?
Well, anyway, rheumatism.
In Germany, they
Yes,
call her
water?
Aunt
No,
Gussie
thank you,
instead of
Frau
Aunt
Trautmann.
Bee.
No, it's just as well. There's only 2 cups. Here, dear. That'll take the chill out of your bones.
Thank you.
Speaking of chills,
Yep,
Frau Trautmann,
you're.
did you know the
totally
village is
agree
supposed to
with
be
that,
infested with ghouls
Tim
and
McCreary.
vampires?
Carl.
Vampires. Pariahs among fiends. Demoniacal creatures with huge
That's the,
canine teeth who bite deeply into the necks of their
social
victims
commentary.
to quaff and gorge on blood. Warm human blood.
There's no such thing as a vampire, Carl Brett Snyder. I don't believe in it.
So
You're just saying that
he
to frighten
said
me.
just then
I just won't be frightened.
demoniacal.
I'm entirely too sensible
Hey,
to
bro.
believe in
I
such
think
rubbish.
like back then I've seen that
Oh,
in some
so would you.
like
I'm sorry if I frightened
stories.
you.
So I
Yeah.
think that's just a
Who said you
word they
frightened
used
me?
back then. You don't really see
I'm
that.
I
not
haven't.
sure.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever.
You tell me
seen
where
that.
Dr. von
You don't
Niemann
really see
is.
that.
We drove to the
nowadays.
village to see Martha.
I don't.
the
I
old
don't think I've
apple
ever
woman.
heard of it.
Thank you.
For some reason, it wasn't demonic. It was demoniacal or something.
I don't know. Maybe that's some kind of. It's a technical term. Yeah, don't. You be careful who you invite in. That invitation, you'd be letting in a vampire.
Is this what Dr. Haupt described?
Yes, sir.
Lionel
He takes it in
Atwill,
water.
the man, the myth, the legend.
Well, continue giving it to her.
I want that kind of dialogue.
Yeah, let me see.
Yeah, this is good medicine. Yeah, for sure, for sure. I didn't mention it, but Dwight Fry, everybody, Renfield in Dracula, and Fritz in Frankenstein.
And looks like both of them simultaneously in this movie.
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. It is definitely a cross between the two.
It's stifling in here. Open these windows.
Herman open windows. Me do, me do.
Oh, fly eater.
Well, she'll sleep well now, poor soul. It won't be necessary for you to stay here. A good night's sleep will work wonders for her.
It was kind of you to come, Doctor.
Oh. Martha has sold me apples for many years. Always a good, ripe, juicy one.
Martha, give me apples. I like.
Oh, Josephine. Oh, Margaret.
She wants her cross.
Herman, get. Here. Now, there. For Martha. There. No.
She won't let it out of her sight.
A terrible experience. To be attacked by a giant bat is enough to shatter anyone's nerves.
Oh my God.
She talks about it all the time. How it flew in her face and tried to sink its teeth in her throat.
No. Bats no do. They soft. Like cat. They not bite Herman.
Quiet, Herman. See what you've
Hey,
done.
that rhymes.
There, Martha, there.
Bat, cat equals soft.
She'll be all right. If she isn't, let me know.
Thank you for coming, Doctor.
That's all right. Good night.
Good night. Run along, Herman. You can see Martha tomorrow.
Oh.
He definitely, Dwight Fry looks more emaciated here, I think, than he does in Dracula or Frankenstein. So his gauntness is kind of creepy here.
It's really cranking up the gauntness.
He really was.
Dr. von Niemann.
Ah, Kringen, how are you?
Much better, thank you kindly, sir, since you prescribed for me.
That's right.
Go to bed, Herman. Go to bed. You shouldn't be prowling around the streets. Dangerous.
Oh.
I'm afraid.
Afraid? Afraid of what, Kringen?
The bats, sir. Big giant bats with wings like an eagle's.
You saw this bat, you say?
I saw it swooping down the street. It came directly for my throat, sir.
When was this, Kringen?
Last night when they came to take Von Els. It was a big monstrous thing. I saw it leap across the alley and into a window.
I can see that.
I ran just as fast as my legs could carry me.
You said nothing about this?
There's enough fear in the village already. Maybe I should. I will. I'll tell the Burgermeister.
Yes, Kringen. That's the thing to do.
No. Bats good. They not hurt Herman.
Like a
Plays
cat.
with them.
You no tell.
No. No. Go to bed, Herman.
Is greater
Go
than
on.
or equal to.
Go on, go to
cat.
bed.
You say he plays with bats?
His garret is filled with them. He makes pets of them.
Hey!
That's odd. Very odd.
Maybe he's it. Herman prowls around the streets all hours of the night, just like an animal.
Schneider.
Maybe he's the
Now,
vampire.
don't start any gossip of that, Kringen. Heaven only knows where it might end. Good night.
I could
Good
also
night,
see
sir.
that. Yeah, obviously this is universal backbone. It's great, man. Having that, like,
This is such a like cut above the
what we get.
what we usually get from Poverty Row.
Oh my God.
No.
Like a cat.
There.
Now you live in my jacket.
See? What did I tell you?
Perhaps there's something in what Kringen says. Seems strange that a human being should want to play with bats.
I love that we swooped around instead of just cutting, right?
So this guy definitely has rabies, right?
He isn't human, I
Oh,
tell you.
for sure.
He's in league with the devil.
Yeah, I mean, dude, the depth,
Put it on.
like
Put it on.
the
There.
lighting.
Thanks. Now go to sleep. You'll be all right in a few days. The doctor says so. Close the window. Close the window. I'm afraid. The vampire. Well, he said leave them open, but I'd have them closed.
Good call.
Do you want the light?
Leave the light. I'm afraid.
Well, I can't blame you for that either. I'll turn it down a little. Good night. If you want me, just pound on the floor. I'll hear you.
All right. Good night.
Good night, Martha.
Oh.
Look at that chair. You never get a chair like that in Poverty Row.
He's in the laboratory
Hell
with
no.
Miss Burton.
Oh, thank you.
Look at the woodwork. You can't afford that.
They can't afford this
Oh,
glassware.
here you are.
Good evening, Doctor.
Good evening, Ruth. How are you, Carl? Well, I'd feel a lot better if I could find a solution to these murders. You don't believe in this vampire theory, then? Of course not. Do you?
There are many strange happenings, my boy. Many mysteries beyond the power of the human mind to comprehend.
Have you a theory which might explain these deaths?
Well,
100%.
I'll be pleased to
Tim
discuss it with
Korea,
you,
without
but
a doubt.
not now, not now. I have some very
It's-
important work to do.
Well, tomorrow, then.
Tomorrow?
I mean,
Yes, perhaps.
again, that's why I think
We'll
it's
see.
underrated, because it's the
Oh, this isn't so
visuals
important,
are
Miss Betty, that you can't let it go till tomorrow?
really well
All right, thank you,
thought
Doctor.
out. A lot of attention to detail
how
and
about
design.
Huh?
I'll
Oh,
talk
nothing
about
serious.
why after the
Just a case of
at the
nerves,
break.
that's all.
There's a good reason
Good night.
for it.
Good night, Doctor.
Good night, Carl.
Wow, very, very Ron DeSantis like fake smile and then robotically.
So they're just leaving this this
Yeah,
experiment running.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Just going
dude.
to bed. We're just gonna let this
Gotta
distill
keep it going.
overnight.
God, we're zooming all over the place.
I
Dude.
love all this
Up,
movement,
down,
man.
left, right, in, out.
Oh,
You think I was gonna break there, huh? Nope.
we're gonna keep going.
I probably should.
Age. I don't know. Cause of death.
Like all the rest.
The vampire.
Yes, that's so. When I said I was going to tell you, his eyes glowed up like coals of fire. His hand reached out towards me, as if he were going to sink it into my throat.
And weigh this well. He never works and never begs.
Look at that.
Yet
That's
he
a great
appears
shot.
well-fed
Yeah.
always. That's so, he does. Well, what does he live on, then? I'll wager it's as Kringen says.
And my woman was in Martha's room tonight when Herman put a flower in her hand.
Strange business, if you ask me. Mighty strange.
I hate to be in your shoes, Kringen.
Yes, after what happened tonight, I'd lock myself in my room and pray God to protect me from the devil.
Well, it didn't work for that old lady.
And that is going to take us to our first break. So that was the first third of the Vampire Bat. What do you think so far, Evan?
I mean, I'm really digging it so far.
It's got a lot going on, right? Like it's not. I mean, obviously there's some talky moments and everything, but it's,
I mean, the plot, it's pretty much what you would expect from a vampire movie. Like, something's killing people in the night. We don't really know what it is.
around sucking blood.
Yeah.
We don't know.
So we gotta turn the tides.
Got to figure this out. But it has just like such a higher level of quality.
Yeah, the quality is definitely there tonight.
I think that's what stands. Every shot, like the lighting, like, and then when you've got anything with a camera move, it's just like it's all these luxuries that we don't get with most Poverty Row films for a reason. And it makes you question, well, what did they have here?
Did they have a budget?
They did, but again, this was again what they would call at the time a quickie horror film. It was rushed into production to actually capitalize on some other horror films at the time. The first one had come out already, starring Lionel Atwill and Wray. Also, that was Dr. X, and that was from Warner Brothers, and it was a color. It was in Technicolor, and they gave it like a big, like marketing campaign, and it was a big hit. So they were like, all right, well, we're going to make a sequel. So then Majestic Pictures was like, okay, well, because it's a color movie, they're going to have to take a lot of time to like process this and develop this. So let's make our own horror film with these two actors as well and release it before they release the next one that they're going to do.
Okay.
Which the next one they did was Mystery of the Wax Museum. So they Majestic Pictures kind of swooped in, got Lionel Atwill and Fay Wray, and made this film, which, you know, again, they were a popular team with these two Warner Brothers horror films, but here they are in a film that really looks and feels like a Universal horror movie. And again, like we talked about, part of the reason is they're filming it on the same sets as Frankenstein and the Old Dark House.
Yeah, so is it just luck? Like they just happened to the sets were still existing or something?
Well, yeah, the way that they would work is if they build a big elaborate set, then they would try to find multiple uses for it. Universal would. And basically the producer, this Phil Goldstone, somehow, like, he was basically involved in like banking and accounting for like Hollywood studios in the 20s. And so in the 30s, when he started making his own movies, he was able to get a lot of favors. Like a lot of these studios would allow his movies to be shot like on their backlots, and so I think he's probably kind of that's why I don't think it's luck, because I think that it seems like this producer just kind of got all the pieces together because he had connections, because he had
a guy who knows people.
He was a money guy, and so he was a popular guy, so he's able to, yeah, I mean, he was able to get all these people who already had experience, like mostly in Universal horror films. I think the prime reason why it looks mostly like a Universal horror film is because this has the same art director as most of the early 30s Universal horror films.
Okay, well, there you go.
Yeah. His name was Charles D. Hall, but here he's credited as Daniel Hall. I don't know if Poverty Row, he used the less formal version of his name and saved Charles D for more premiere productions, but he did Frankenstein, Dracula, The Black Cat. I mean, he was, again, and art direction has so much to do with the look and feel of these movies. I mean, it really does. And so I think if anything,
I mean, just having someone to set the tone.
Yeah, I mean, it is like, it makes the biggest difference. And so first it's having these sets, but then it's having a guy who's already worked around these sets, who already knows where to go grab everything that he needs or wants.
He knows where the secret passage is in the Frankenstein's lab.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he just, yeah, he can get there easy. He can get you the secret passage. He can get you sets. He can't get you the equipment, but they're doing pretty good with the lab equipment here. It's not your typical Frankenstein,
yeah,
whirly gigs.
Yeah, it's some glassware.
Yeah, I mean they're keeping it. I want to say simple, but it's still pretty elaborate for glassware.
It's got movement, which I think is what you want for your mad scientist laboratory.
Yeah,
something that's bubbling at least.
I mean, again, they kept it in the foreground for most of like a dialogue scene. Like they stayed in one shot, and it's like, all right, like I'm not disinterested. That's a weird thing. Like the shots are well composed and well lit. I don't know anything about, like, I don't think the cinematographer did too many prominent horror films. The weird thing about the director is that we've seen some movies from this director, but I don't think that we would say that they rise to this quality. We're only the first third of the way in. The director is Frank Strayer. He also directed The Monster Walks, which we watched a long time ago.
Yeah.
And The Ghost Walks. The Ghost Walks was the horror comedy where the theater people were in the house. And then it turned out there was a murderer on the loose, and at the end he turned out to be a mad scientist and was trying to do some kind of insane surgery. He was masquerading as a cop. Do you remember that? It was,
I'm not sure.
It was better than I thought, but it wasn't like a well shot movie. Yeah, The Ghost Walks, we probably watched back in like last winter, I think.
So yeah, it's been
like January we might have watched it, I think. And so it's been a while, but I was like surprised. I hadn't seen that movie before, and I was surprised that like they were doing the hammy, like, oh, it's a bunch of theater people doing a gag, but then there's a real dead body and we got to figure out, but then they bring in an insane guy trying to do a insane surgery in the mix. And I'm like, oh, this is now turning into a different thing. Okay. Like, this is interesting. So obviously the guy knows his material, but the shooting here, I'm kind of surprised how good it is, knowing those two previous films, which weren't really very visually interesting to me. So, and then the last Universal connection, the writer of tonight's film wrote Hunchback of Notre Dame, which we watched a few seasons ago, starring Lon Chaney Sr. He went on to write both of Universal's House of Monster movies, House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula. So this guy, and he also wrote a bunch of mystery films. So he definitely, his name was Edward Lowe. And I mean, it's funny, because the story is, I mean, it's interesting. Everything's, they're keeping me entertained, even though we've had some talky scenes. It's still been interesting. So
yeah, still, I want to see the vampire. I want to see that bat.
Got to see that bat. Well, don't worry. We still got 2/3 of the movie left to see, but we're gonna go to this quick break, which is a little glimpse at the films that Lionel Atwill and Wray teamed up in. And these were shot for Warner Brothers, and these were both made in color. And it's 2-strip Technicolor. And so the first trailer that we're going to see is for the first film that they did, Dr. X. The trailer's in black and white, so it's a little, kind of sad. But
use your imagination.
Use your imagination, but you'll see Lionel Atwill and Wray on full display there. And then there's no trailer for Mystery of the Wax Museum, but the movie was restored by the UCLA Film and Television Archive, and they uploaded a video kind of doing a before and after comparison of the restoration with the original print that they worked with. And it didn't have any audio on it, and so I took it, I put some public domain old music under it, and just to give you a glimpse into kind of these films, which are really visually different from the Universal horror movies, like really, really different. You'll see why. So I'm excited to kind of give a little glimpse of that. So we're gonna get these this trailer and then this restoration comparison, and then when we come back, we'll get into the exciting middle of the vampire bat. So stick around, we'll be right back.
I'll agree to lay off for 48 hours. But I give you my word, if you don't succeed, I'll come in here, seal every door, place everybody under technical arrest, take fingerprints, conduct a rigid inspection. I don't care if the whole world knows it. There have been 6 murders committed all in the same circumstances. The evidence points here.
Another one. If you only knew the things that have happened.
Are you worried about your father?
Yes, I am. Terribly.
Oh, the only thing I'm concerned about is your safety.
Say, what's the matter with you?
What's the matter with me? Nothing at all. Only all last night I lay down with a bunch of stiffs. Look at a lot of goofy guys, let a dame poke a gun in my stomach, and then I take a trick cigar from a dumb policeman.
It is my theory that one of us in the past, from dire necessity, was driven to cannibalism. The memory of that act was hammered like a nail into the mind of that man. Shrewd and brilliant, he could conceal his madness from the human eye, even from himself, but he can't conceal it from the eyes of the radio sensitivity.
And we are back. So the trailer for Dr. X and then that restoration comparison for Mystery of the Wax Museum. And Evan, as we were watching that, Evan pointed out that
looked, the before and after, the after looked kind of pink.
Kind of pink and
there's some green.
Green, right? If you watch that movie, if you watch that and Dr. X, you'll notice that there is a lot of green. The green is very prominent.
Why is there so much green?
And Evan, I've got an answer for you. The reason it's so green, and to just give a reference to a movie we've already seen, a few seasons back, we watched one of my favorite public domain horror movies, Scared to Death, which was shot in a 2-strip Technicolor process called Cinecolor, right?
The Mask.
And it was, remember the mask was supposed to be green, but the color process used the color red and the color blue. So green didn't show up very well, right? This is the opposite of that. Okay. So it uses red and green, and blue doesn't show up very well.
So this room's actually supposed to be blue.
Well, there's some debate about that. I don't know if they made it green. They had to have known that things were going to turn out pretty green. But every time I watch those movies now, I do love that because you don't see that even with normal color movies where green is just so kind of baked in to, especially in those movies, the darkness and the shadows and everything else. Like those movies have these very elaborate sets because these were big budget movies that, compared to what Universal was putting out, these were big budget horror movies, and from Warner Brothers. They put Michael Curtiz on both of those as the director. He would go on to direct Casablanca, right? Like one of the most classic American movies of all time. He early in his career, he did a few horror movies, and these two Technicolor ones at a time where everybody mostly remembers Universal stuff, but there are these two. I saw Dr. X when I was 7 or 8, and I was even at that time was whoa, this is weird. And it's pre-code. So it's there's a moon killer and he's going around slashing people. It is wild. It is really great. And so this is, again, capitalizing off the success that movie had. And then before they did the follow-up, that's when this movie got produced and rushed out into theaters. And so we can thank the success of those horror movies for tonight's film.
Thanks, Casablanca.
Thanks, Cas. Yeah, you gotta love that. I love all these. It's crazy the different connections that pop up. It's all Kevin Bacon, basically. The degrees, all the degrees.
Just over here clicking hyperlinks.
It's my mind is that's all this show is just a Wikipedia search. It's a 2-hour, 3-hour Wikipedia search condensed into a 2 to 3 hour live stream. So not really condensed, but you're gonna get the same thing out of it.
Expanded.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's definitely. So yeah, this movie definitely has a very superior look and feel, and it's a lot of the things that we've talked about for this break. So anything before we get into the middle of this episode?
If we're Wikipedia now, can we ask everybody for $3?
I think that's fair. I always see those Jimmy Wales things. I remember seeing those, and I can't remember what they say.
Don't scroll away.
Don't scroll away. We need to save Wikipedia. Like they used to, all the call to actions. I wish I could remember. They were so
it's
good.
gonna go dark.
Yeah,
You gotta
shit like
give.
that. I'm like, well, I really rely on Wikipedia. I hope it doesn't. But am I gonna really give $3? I probably should, as much as I use it.
We probably should.
That's the conclusion that we've come to. On that note, I think we're gonna go ahead and get into the exciting middle of the Vampire Bat right now. Great Universal set, obviously.
The horse and the carriage? Would we get that in a usual Poverty Row fare?
Nope. No, as I'm saying, they must have just had access to whatever they wanted, basically. So this was the cellar of the Frankenstein home in Frankenstein when they were like running around looking for the monster.
Oh, yeah.
They must have had access to a lot of extras too. Look at there's just to stand up there. And then here
comes Shutter Island.
Vampire.
What if at the end of
Well, what do you
Shutter
make of it,
Island,
Doctor?
Leonardo DiCaprio
Are
was...
these two wounds similar to those found on the
well,
other
I would
bodies?
have been all in for that.
Dr.
twist.
Hopps can answer that for you, sir.
Yes, they were the same in every case.
This is a strange condition, Carl. So strange that I doubt the evidence of my eyes. What was your conclusion, Haupt?
I diagnosed the wounds as having been made by needle-sharp teeth. Punctures are clean cut, penetrating into, but not beyond, the jugular vein.
Here it is
Do you
again.
mean to say that you also believe they could have been made by
Is this our Van
teeth?
Helsing?
Frankly, I do.
Ah, you see, Brett Schneider?
What kind of teeth, Doctor?
An animal of some sort. It's hard to say. The fangs of a wolf, perhaps.
A werewolf.
Could they have been made by,
All right.
well, a bat, for instance?
I'm game.
A certain species, yes. There are
Have been
vampire
made
bats.
by this guy?
Dr. William Jamison,
Right.
who
on
explored
cue.
many of the tributaries of the upper Amazon, states that blood-sucking bats do exist. He further asserts that the victims often become blood drinkers themselves, citing a case in which he saw a native tortured to death on an anthill by his tribe brothers. They swore he had become a human bat, and, states Jamison, he confessed it.
Do you mean to say that such a thing as a human vampire is possible?
Who can say? Historic records would have us believe that an evil soul, assuming there is such, can take any shape it pleases.
So why not into that of a human being? Eh, Carl? Why not?
Have you any literature on the subject, Doctor?
Yes, I have many interesting volumes on my shelves that might prove very enlightening. I'll be glad to show them to you.
I don't mind admitting that I'm up a tree. Stumped.
Well, we'll see what can be done, my boy.
No, Herman. This is no place for you. Go away, my boy. Go away.
Good night, Sean.
Good night, Doctor.
Good night, Hal.
Good night, Doctor.
In the morning, Carl.
Thank you, Doctor. I'm sorry to have dragged you out at such an ungodly hour.
Oh, that's all right. That's all right.
That was an amazing reaction.
There's a body under there.
A child fleeing in horror from the sight of death.
There goes the vampire. Arrest him. Lock him up. Kill him.
Has the entire village gone mad? Herman wouldn't harm a baby, and you know it.
I've walked the streets of this village for
about
over
that.
40
I wouldn't
years.
let him hold
But
that
tonight's
baby.
the end. He knows that I've told he plays with bats. He knows that I saw him sneak into Martha's house just before midnight.
Perhaps he was taking her another flower, Kringle. The boy brought her one this evening while I was there.
He killed her just like he did all the rest. And now he's going to kill me. Unless he's killing us, make him to his heart. I'm a doomed man. He'll kill me. He'll kill me. I'm doomed.
That's what it feels like.
Kill me. I'm a doomed man. He'll kill me.
Just keep yelling until you get out of here. I know it's a long way to walk.
He went for it, though. It wasn't a bad performance there.
No, it was fun. Creepy.
Creeping.
Oh, I love like this slow camera movement as he's creeping in with those eyes, man, looking all. Scamper, scamper.
Good morning, Mr. Brettschneider. What brings you to Kleinschloss so early?
You!
Fibber, I heard the doctor tell Georgiana he expected you.
I knew there was something else.
You're a delightful prevaricator, Carl, but not a very convincing one.
Oh, you don't mind me using your stethoscope, do you, Doctor?
Not at all, Frau Schnappen. But what seems to be the ailment this morning?
What's that? Oh,
What seems to be the ailment this morning?
well, Doctor, I am positive that I have valvular leakage of the aorta. Or maybe it's the right ventricle. There is something wrong with my heart. I can hear it beat, thump, 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 just like the book says.
Well, if you didn't hear it beating thump, 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 just as the book says, I would say there is something wrong.
What? Without a moon?
You have a heart of stone.
Oh.
All right, then. Close your eyes.
A little joke for you there.
Yeah. His delivery was very
No.
Python-esque.
Oh, so, young lady.
It's too early in the morning, Carl. Much too early.
Oh, is it?
Oh, there's Aunt Gussie.
She would show up just at a time like this.
We were just about to bang right here in the middle of the garden. She would show up at this time.
Well, Aunt Gussie, what's the matter now?
It's her ventricle.
Palpitation of the auricular, ventricular, and microvalves with a cardiac tendency.
You mean your heart's beating?
Of course it's beating. Dr. Von Nealen tried to assure me, but I know it's serious. I'm liable to go just like that.
Did he prescribe for you, dear?
Yes, monacid ester, salicylic acid.
You mean salicylic acid, don't
Well,
you?
salicylic, it's helped me. My heart is much quieter. Hello, Carl.
Hello.
Oh, Carl, you'll be good to her when I'm gone, won't you?
Yes, of course I will, Frau Schnapp.
Well, I'm not
That's
gone
what he
yet.
prescribed.
You can't marry her unless I say so. Don't forget that. Oh, my heart.
There, Auntie, you'll be all right. Just rest a while. What you need is
What?
rest, dear. Quiet. Aunt Gussie has a heart like a steam engine.
Carl.
That old battle axe's heart will never give out.
Yeah, that's essentially, that was basically what she's saying. It's like a freight train.
When was the last time you ate an apple with a knife?
I don't know that I ever had, like,
feel like it's like something my grandfather would do growing up. Just cut off a little bit of apple.
Just a slice?
Yeah,
a slice of apple?
Just eat it, you know, just a little piece at a time.
Oh, you gotta love the fake turtle.
Yeah. Gotta have the comic relief character in these movies.
Don't you know it's wrong to
It's not the
steal?
worst comic relief we've had.
You've cut yourself.
See? Blood.
Yes. Stop it, stop it.
No hurt me. No hurt.
Oh, you poor thing. Now, you wait right here, and I'll run in the house and get something for that finger. A subcutaneous wound like that might easily result in a tetanus infection.
Tetanus.
Tetanus. Lockjaw. Not that you need be afraid. From the way you talk, I think you've got it already. Look, here's a nice juicy apple for you.
If anything, he's more understated here than when he played Renfield.
Ah, this is it.
They reined him in a little more. Todd Browning
Traits
didn't
de
give a shit.
l'apparition des esprits sur les vampires by Augustin Dom Calame in 1746. Let us suppose that these corpses do not actually stir from their tombs, that only the ghosts or spirits appear to the living. Wherefore do these phantoms present themselves, and what is it that energizes them? Is it actually the soul of the dead man which has not yet departed to its final destination?
Fiddlesticks. Now, how could a corpse buried under 4 or 5 feet of earth get out to do any such foolishness? I don't believe it.
It's a fair question, Doctor. How could it?
Well, according to accepted theory, the vampire dematerializes its body and reintegrates it outside the grave.
It's a good explanation, if you can believe it. And while I'm standing here listening to all this rubbish, there's a poor man in the garden in danger of a tetanus infection. Now, what should I do for him, Doctor? Shall I apply mercurochrome or 2% solution
So
of
you
bichloride?
believe in a vampire, but you won't believe that
Get some gold
it
and
can
some
turn into a
mercurochrome.
cloud.
Thank you, Doctor. I'll wait here.
Difficult to believe, isn't it?
It's impossible to believe. And yet, it would explain these deaths, wouldn't it?
Ah, Brettschneider.
Oh, thank God these guys, these clowns.
But after what you saw last night, you'll be interested in this as well.
Well, what's happened?
Gringen was found dead an hour ago.
Uh-oh.
With the 2 punctures in his neck and not a drop of blood in his body. And what's more, Herman Gleib has disappeared.
What?
Now are you convinced that we were right and you were wrong?
That'd be proof enough for anybody. Kringen said Herman would get him, and he did.
Well, Brettschneider?
I appoint you my deputy. Organize a searching party and comb this countryside from one end to the other. Find Herman Gleib and bring him in, but don't harm him. Do you understand?
What good will that do? He's a vampire. There's only one thing for us to do when we find him. Kill him and drive a stake through his
Herman
heart.
Gleib will be tried by a court of law. If the charge against him is proven true, the law will decide what to do with him, not you.
The law will
Now
try
get your
to
men
stick
together and
to
do
his
as I
heart.
tell you.
That's the way to talk.
I'm going into town for a little while, Doctor. Would you care to come along?
Oh, I hardly believe so. There's little to be done until they find the boy. If you need me then,
All right, thanks. I'll let you know.
The boy.
I feel as though I was going to faint.
Oh, there, Auntie. There's nothing here to be afraid of. Here comes Emil with your mercurochrome and bandages. Run along now and take care of that patient of yours.
Oh, heavens, I forgot all about him. Oh, my heart. Oh.
Poor Auntie. She's had every ailment in the book,
and a lot that aren't, I'm afraid.
particularly a palpitation of the auriculoventricular, tricuspid, and mitral valves, Doctor.
Well, I had to tell her something to satisfy her.
The hell?
He's just taking everything.
He's ripping out all the pictures of women modeling clothes, saving them for later. This degenerate.
You good like Martha. She give me apples. Herman like you.
Are you Herman?
Me, Herman. You give me apple, Herman give you nice soft bat.
Dogs in the house. Oh my god. That thing is... Hey man, dogs are... I love dogs. I have a bunch of dogs, but when they jump on you like that...
Yeah, when they start jumping.
Yeah, it's like, chill out. Like, I'm sure she was very seriously like, stop it. Leave me alone.
What is it, Georgiana?
I just found this in Emil's room.
Well,
It belonged to my friend, Martha Mueller.
are you certain?
I gave it to her myself. Martha died last night. I find her crucifix in Emil's room. Doesn't that mean Emil is the one Herr Brettschneider is seeking?
This amazes me, Georgiana. It's impossible.
It rained the night Von Elst died. There was mud on Emil's shoes the next morning.
Have you mentioned this to anyone?
I intend to tell Herr Brettschneider when he calls again.
Can't believe it. Leave this with me. I want to talk to Emil before you say anything to anyone.
The Burgermeister should know at once.
Yes, all in good time. Emil has been with me too long for us to jump at conclusions. Don't say anything until I tell you, and send Emil to me.
Very well, Doctor.
And put away your jump to conclusions map, lady.
That's for the neuritis.
Oh my god.
And the
It gets to be a
Pepsi,
little
chocolate and
much
shoe leather.
after a while.
And sweet spirits of nitre. That'll help. At least won't do any harm. And ginger.
She really takes over the second.
That'll warm my stomach. And now, a little pipe out
This is her. What if she's the vampire?
Oh, I wish, dude. Oh my god. Oh.
Oh my god, what the...
Oh. Could you imagine? Oh.
She's doing it.
She's committed, man.
Yeah.
Oh my god, what a comedian. Oh,
Wow.
That was... She just poured a whole bunch of shit.
What a trooper.
I didn't talk about this yet, but... You see that?
Is this in color?
The torches are. This was... When the movie came out, these were hand-colored.
Huh.
I don't know why. It was a choice they made.
Interesting.
But this is actually a digital recreation, because they couldn't find an original print or a quality print where they were hand colored like that. Either that or it's an enhancement from one that kind of. It's a wild effect, honestly. A little pointless, but...
We've got him. He can't get away from here now. Some of you's around that way. Go ahead. And if he tries to get past you, you know what to do.
You're gonna love a good old angry mob. Oh shit.
Herman, you're going back to the village with us. Come on. We won't hurt you.
No, won't go. Herman afraid.
Come on. You're going with us, Herman.
No.
You're going with us.
No.
Come on.
No.
Come on. Get him. Come on, Herman. We won't hurt you. Come on.
No.
Come, that settles him.
Well,
looks like a job well done.
We've got to make certain.
That's right, sir. The
I won't
vampire
go down
killed
there.
himself.
Nobody asked you to. I'll go myself.
Can you see him?
He's on a ledge about 50 feet down. I'll get a rope. We've got to make certain, I tell you.
Jeez.
You must be careful, Emil. Very careful.
Oh, POV, man.
No. It must be, it must be. She's no better than the rest. I've got to go on.
So flashy, dude. Like all this shooting through this thing.
Whoa.
Look behind it, dude. Oh, rack focus. Oh my god. Dolly out, man. Oh my god.
That's really cool.
Oh shit.
This way you definitely can't get out. Gonna fill that whole thing.
Yeah, I guess that's the perfect size. And that is gonna take us to our second break. So
we've had a bit happen here.
just in the last few minutes.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, it's really picked up.
It did.
So
After all the comic relief.
Yeah, so just a recap.
Little recap. The suspected vampire, Herman, played by Dwight Fry, was chased all the way to a cave with a deep canyon. And when faced with the mob, he decided to just jump head first off a cliff. And who could blame him? But of course, it's revealed, obviously, he's not the vampire. We seem to have a situation where the town doctor, Dr. Von Niemann, is using hypnotism to hypnotize his butler into bringing him victims to drain their blood to be used to feed or grow whatever this spongy pulsating thing in the tank is.
Interesting.
What do you think about all that?
That's not really where I thought this was going. So is there just not a vampire?
No.
Okay.
No,
Very
not a
interesting.
vampire. That's the kind of the weird thing about this movie is that it goes in the mad scientist direction.
Yeah, what a twist.
What a twist.
It's the other horror villain.
Right, yeah. It's not vampires, you say. Must be a mad scientist.
We should have known with all that bubbling glassware.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of when
they walked in and we don't have the Tesla coil, that should have
that would have definitely
alarm.
been a dead giveaway. Yeah, the beakers are a little more subtle, I guess. Not really, but somehow I guess a little bit more. Yeah, it is kind of weird, but it's mad science, but it's kind of wild that he's draining people's blood.
Yeah,
for
it's
this
kind of in the middle
experiment, and
blood science.
We saw the blood. Like we saw the blood come out of the tube into the thing. Like,
I guess even though it's kind of, clinical.
It's clinical,
in a way, but
it's still a person's blood being drained from their body. Like you see him put the giant spikes in her neck.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, to me at this time, like Universal horror movies weren't doing anything like that. Like they weren't, and I don't know if it panned or if it just cut to another shot of the beaker, but it was pretty sure it panned. And so you've had these long shots where there's a lot of business and it's panning through things and emphasizing action. And it's just so much more elaborate than what we get on any given movie, I mean, even the good movies that we've had up to now, I don't know that they've sometimes the camera movement here has been a little much, but it's still,
I appreciate it.
It's makes the movie more enjoyable when it's visually interesting,
very visually dynamic.
Yeah, I mean that's the one thing, you can fault the movie on its talky points or on its really grating comic relief, but but you got to give it props for, again, the atmosphere. It's just bringing a lot to the table, even though it has its creaky points. Yeah, I mean, enjoyable. And again, the cast is, I think that's kind of part of also what helps is the cast is good. I mean, what do you think of the lead? The not Lionel Atwill, but our inspector. Did you realize that? Did you know that he was a cop? This guy that is in love with the.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really. You told me earlier that it was supposed to be a cop, and I guess I just.
He's
forgot it's more along the way.
The cop in charge of investigating the murders.
Yeah,
right?
I guess I've just been seeing him more as just the guy.
Just the guy. No, but he's like, if you go and watch, especially some of these other movies we watch, the leading men are so much less than charismatic. They're very, and they're not like real, right? Like you think a white zombie.
We've seen a lot of forgettable cardboard cutout.
Yeah, can you even remember the lead guy, the leading man in that?
Definitely
not really.
Not.
No. But that's the thing. The guy here, Melvin Douglas, he was a very just a really gifted actor who before this he was in The Old Dark House, which was a Universal horror movie with Boris Karloff, directed by James Whale, who did Frankenstein and Bride of Frankenstein. So he he'd already done a horror movie at this point, so he wasn't a stranger to it, but he would go on to be a really acclaimed actor and won 2 Academy Awards for Best Supporting Actor.
Wow.
He's in one of my favorite just one of my favorite movies, but definitely my favorite Peter Sellers movie, Being There. I don't know if I showed that. I showed that to some people in high school. I don't know if I showed that to you. That's the one where Peter Sellers is basically the simpleton who gets brought into like the Washington D.C. elite, and by the end of the movie, he's in line to become president of the United States. But he's a simpleton who's never left his house. He's a gardener, and he's just using all these garden metaphors. But he's saying all this stuff about gardening, but people think it's metaphors for the country and politics and all these things. And so he just gets all this attention, and all these people think he's so brilliant, but he's just basically like a mentally handicapped person. And Peter Sellers is so usually he's really over the top, but he was nominated for an Academy Award, and he thought he was going to win, and he lost to Dustin Hoffman. He lost to somebody he was not happy because he thought he was going to win, and he should have won because it's a great performance. But Melvin Douglas won the supporting actor Oscar for his role in that movie, which was the guy that basically brings Peter Sellers' character into the DC fold. He's like a rich billionaire who has basically anointed every like candidate, Republican or whatever party candidate for president, and is like looking for a new guy, and then he sets his sights on Peter Sellers' character, and they're great. It's a great movie. Check out Being There. It's one of my favorite movies. But yeah, Melvin Douglas, I think it shows here. He's a pretty good leading man, and everybody else is. Dwight Fry has killed it until now we're not going to have him anymore. Obviously, he's eaten it, literally, but. He killed it. He did a great job. Very spooky. And I don't know if you realize, Emil, the butler, who's also our vampire. I don't know if you recognize him, but he was in White Zombie.
Okay.
He played the love-struck plantation owner. Who initiates everything, who seeks out Lugosi's character and gets him to put the zombie spell on the woman that he's interested in. And then Lugosi ends up making that guy a zombie, but then he's the one who, spoiler alert, pushes Lugosi off a cliff. So again,
kind of a similar role.
Yeah, it's interesting, this guy, he didn't really pop up in any other horror movies, but it's funny that I've compared White Zombie and the Vampire Bat, and he's in both of these movies. So I don't know if he had a connection with the producer or what, but yeah, it is funny that he does play similar roles in both films. And yeah, he's obviously more of a background character here, a little over the top in White Zombie, but still good. So it's just funny, like the level of acting here is obviously, a lot of people have made horror movies by this point. They came from like a horror pedigree, so it's like kind of like why this movie feels like a greatest hits. I think is you just had all these people who had worked on at least one horror movie up to this time. So
yeah, a lot of collective experience.
Yeah, it comes together to present a very experienced product. So definitely enjoying it. We're gonna see how it shakes out, but first we're gonna get our second break. And again, the leads here are Lionel Atwill and Wray. And of course, after this is when they had more of their more famous roles, which obviously Wray, King Kong. She is the Beauty that Killed the Beast in King Kong. And, her career actually declined after that. She didn't really have many other horror movie roles after that. Like, it's kind of weird. She was in at least 4 horror movies up to that point. Made King Kong and then had some other bit roles, but her career just kind of faded out. And but King Kong was obviously the pinnacle. I mean, that was
I think she did okay.
It cemented her role as a scream queen. I mean, she doesn't have a lot to do, but I mean, she's very memorable. And so we're going to see a trailer for King Kong during this break. We've seen the re-release trailer, kind of the standard one, but we're going to watch an Italian trailer. So we're not going to understand what the title cards say, but it shows plenty of footage from the movie. It's enjoyable. That's the second trailer that we're going to watch. The first one is for a Lionel Atwill movie. It's kind of weird. He was a leading horror actor in the early 30s, but by the late 30s, he basically transitioned into a supporting character for Universal horror movies. So he's in like 4 of the Frankenstein sequels and playing a different character each time, but usually some authority figure or some kind of, minor character who a lot of the times got electrocuted, which is kind of weird that it happened to him multiple times as different characters. But it's funny in both of the, well, no, it's different movies, but he was kind of, again, tarnished by the sex scandal that we've talked about when we watched Fog Island. He perjured himself when he was questioned about a possible rape that happened at an orgy that he threw. Well, that's the long and short of it. And so then the story's never been quite clear, but I mean, Universal was happy to have him in the Frankenstein movies even after that, when a lot of people wouldn't hire him. So it was kind of funny, but he kicked all of this off with Son of Frankenstein, which is, probably his best performance. He plays a police inspector who, as a child, had his arm ripped off by the monster. So when the son of Frankenstein comes and resurrects the monster, he has a vendetta, right?
Yeah, it's personal.
It is. And he's so great. And if you've seen Young Frankenstein, the one-armed police inspector in Young Frankenstein. It's a complete play on his character in Son of Frankenstein. And him and Basil Rathbone literally try to chew the scenery out of each other's mouths. Like, it is so over the top that I love it, because they're just like the scene in Young Frankenstein where they're playing darts and they're kind of missing and hitting random things and yelling at each other. That's basically the scene in Son of Frankenstein. They're not killing cats with their darts, but they're throwing their darts wildly, just yelling at each other, and it's just it's is this real? Is it? But it's perfect for that movie, that down to the set design. That movie's over the top. So Lionel Atwill kind of dug his own grave there, but it's a great performance. So we'll see clips of that in the trailer for Son of Frankenstein. So we're gonna get these 2 trailers, and then when we come back, we're gonna get into the exciting conclusion of The Vampire Bat. So stick around, we'll be right back.
20 years ago, in the barony of Frankenstein, a monster created by man stalked through the country, maiming and killing. In time, Frankenstein, maker of the monster, died. The monster disappeared. Now, after 20 years, the son of Frankenstein returns, and fear grips the village anew. A man tainted by the blood of his father can forget his human soul and carry on the diabolical work of the Frankenstein.
As a man, I should destroy him. But as a scientist, I shall do everything in my power to bring him back to conscious life. Benson, turn on the generator.
Produced on a vast scale, Universal Son of Frankenstein presents the most fearsome cast in the history of the screen. Basil Rathbone. In his heart, warm human emotions. In his mind, the monster mania.
It's alive.
Alive, you mean?
Yes, alive,
But
alive.
I thought you said our experiments
I know. I too thought we failed, but we haven't. I've actually seen it walk.
Karloff, rising from the past to spread new terror. Lugosi, sinister, mysterious, evil.
You see that? They hanged me once.
Lionel Atwill, grim hatred in his blood.
One doesn't easily forget, Herr Baron. An arm torn out of the roots.
Josephine Hutchinson, her young beauty a magnet to the menace around her.
I hate it here, Wolf. I'm terribly afraid all the time.
By heaven, I think you're a worse fiend than your father. Where is this monster? Where is he? I'll stay by your side until you confess. And if you don't, I'll feed you to the villagers.
So that was King Kong and Son of Frankenstein.
Italian King Kong.
The Italian King Kong trailer. Yeah, we hadn't
Rex
seen that
Kong.
one. Yeah, well, I mean,
Kong Rex.
he certainly does. is. If you've seen the original King Kong, which if you haven't, I strongly urge you to go see it. It's a fun movie. You know, I mean, I feel like I still remember the first time I saw it. Just because it's fun. It's memorable. And that came the same year as this. This movie was released in January 1933. So it came out, you know, a few months, I guess, before King Kong. But you know, King Kong obviously was a landmark film, and you could see there, obviously, big budget. You know, definitely.
You need a lot of dollars to make the eyebrows on that gorilla pop.
Yeah, all that. I mean, again, to make a giant head and a giant hand, I mean, that takes a lot of money. That takes studio money. And that's when RKO was a big studio. And they, you know, I mean, that's the thing is Universal wasn't the only studio making horror movies. Like everybody kind of tried their hand at it. Like we talked about what Warner Brothers did. Like Paramount made a movie with Lionel Atwill called Murders at the Zoo, and he plays a mad. He's not the zookeeper. I can't remember what a big game. He's something, but he's like insane, and he's basically leading people to be killed by these animals in the zoo. And like the film opens with him like taking this guy that kissed his wife and stitching his mouth closed and then leaving him to die in the jungle.
Oh my god.
Brutal, right? That's pre-code. I mean, obviously that's pre-code horror, and that came out either the same year as this or the year before this. I mean, again, the code started to be enacted in like middle to late 33. So up to then you had like horror movies that were pushing it. That one pushes it. This one, I'd say, kind of pushes it. But it's so crazy to think that then you have the code and then you don't even get any blood. like that's what's so funny about this movie. Actually tries some things that you got to think once the code was enacted. They were like, that's not happening. Nope.
You can't put blood in a glass bottle.
Yeah, are you crazy?
Think about the children.
If our kids see this, they're gonna run around starting to jab needles in people's arms and collect blood in their own beakers. We
don't want these kids realizing they're full of blood.
They need to know they're full of good old-fashioned American know-how. We're not all the same. They can't know that. Not just oozing with blood. But no, yeah, I mean, this movie stands out. I mean, we've obviously talked about it. Ready to get into the exciting conclusion of it.
I want to see some more blood. I hope that wasn't all the blood that we see. I'll understand if it is, but
we'll see. I can't remember, but we'll certainly see. I mean, any blood is interesting, but yeah, hopefully there's more. Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
But you know, we'll see how they wrap it up. Anything else before we get into it, Evan?
Based on what you said earlier, I have a suspicion how this might play out, but
okay. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get into the exciting conclusion of The Vampire Bat right now.
It's going to turn out that he was actually a vampire the whole time. Mad scientist think it's just a trick. I'm coming.
Chill out, bro. Dude, put a hole in my door.
Oh,
Oh, it's you, Doctor.
Of course, she's the bang man. Let me in.
Georgiana hear the bell?
That's quite all right, my dear. Georgiana's becoming careless. Very careless.
Yes, I've noticed that, too. In my opinion, she has Nagana. That's sleeping sickness. You know the symptoms, Doctor. At first, I thought it was creeping paralysis, so I stuck a pin in her leg to see, and there was a splendid reaction of the reflex motor nerve. Why, Auntie, you're shocked. So was she.
Won't you join me in some coffee?
Yes, thanks, Doctor. We will. There are a few questions I'd like to ask you, Paul.
About blood and murders and vampires, I suppose.
Yes, I'm afraid so.
Oh, so am I. Well, good night. If such a thing is possible, I'm going to bed.
Won't you join us too, Frau Schnappmann?
Coffee at this hour of the night? No, thank you. I'm going to stick to my monacid ester succinate salad. Acid, Doctor, acid. Good night.
Oh, just a little dose of acid before I go to bed. Oh, perfect. This is going to hit
What's the
the
news from the village,
spot.
Carl? Have they located Herman yet?
No, not a trace of him.
I'm going to drift away.
I hate to think that poor misfit being
microdose.
hunted down like a dog.
Go to dreamland.
No, I simply can't bring myself to believe in that vampire theory.
Will you pour, Ruth?
Certainly.
Just
I know,
getting him
Carl.
into acid and not.
Our
not
saner,
sleep.
calmer judgment tells us that such things can't be, and yet, here, for instance, in this ponderous tome, are cited 1,001 phobias and complexes that human beings are heir to. Some of them are strange, more untenable even than werewolves and vampires. Could I have some more, please?
You drink entirely too much coffee.
Well, it's my one weakness. And also my excuse for tolerating Georgiana's laxity and other things. She does know how to make good coffee. Thank you.
Wow, what a psycho.
She brings it
man.
to me every night at exactly 10 o'clock. And when I've drunk it all, then I know it's time to quit.
Yes, and eat breakfast so you can have more coffee.
Holy shit.
Georgiana, you mustn't lie like that.
You're sleeping all wrong, man.
You'll get yourself a torticolis. No, stiff neck. Georgiana.
That was Auntie.
I'll just mosey on over there.
I'm gonna finish my coffee.
Auntie. Oh, I'm all right. I'm all right now. Oh, it's just
David, help Frau Schnapper to her room.
my silly imagination. I imagined I saw Georgia.
Jesus. Get her out of here.
The same 2 wounds, Doctor.
And my last words to her were angry ones. A petulant reprimand for being late with my coffee.
What time is that?
About 2 or 3 minutes after 10.
She's been dead then about 45 minutes. Bloodless like the rest. It passes all belief. Ruth's aunt saw Herman Gleib in the garden this morning. Could it be that he... You were the first one here. What happened?
I was in my room reading. My door was open. I must have dozed off for a minute or so because I awoke to hear Frau Schnappmann scream.
You say your door was open?
Yes, my room is very poorly ventilated.
And you saw nothing? Heard nothing unusual?
Nothing.
Carl. What is it? This crucifix belonged to Martha. See who it is, Emil.
Can you positively identify this as belonging to Martha?
Without a doubt. I saw it in her room the night she died.
How in the world did it get here?
Herman Gleib was in her room. He had that crucifix in his hands. And Herman was here today.
Maybe here now, for all we know.
Clear at the body.
Who is it? Oh.
Yeah, I lock my doors too.
How is she?
She's had a real shock this time, but she'll be all right. I'm putting her to bed.
Leave her there. Don't let her out of this room. And don't you leave it either.
What do you mean?
It looks as if Herman Gleib is the killer after all. It's possible he may be hiding here in the castle.
Well, what makes you think so?
I'll tell you later.
Only knew.
Stay in your room and keep your door locked.
Don't worry about that.
I heard every word he said, and I don't think there's any use of them searching for Herman. They should look for a dog, a human-faced dog.
Auntie, the doors and windows are all locked. There's nothing to be afraid of now.
Who said I was afraid?
Was that just a
I'm not bit
stray
afraid.
dog?
No,
we saw
of course
earlier?
you're not afraid, but you must get some rest.
Rest in this awful place.
The dog was the
Dog-faced
vampire.
Hermans and human-faced bats and blood and murders and vampires.
Nice summary of the movie so far. It was good.
Find anything, Carl?
There's an unbroken cobweb in that window. If Herman did it, he came through the door.
He must have. And yet I don't understand how he could find his way up here without us hearing him. Yet Emil was asleep, and I was in the library. Yes, he could have done it. The facts all point to it. What was it, Emil?
The Burgermeister. He has news for Herr Brettschneider about Herman.
Oh.
Oh. Shit. So elaborate, man.
Pardon the intrusion, Doctor. Pardon the intrusion. I knew Carl was here, and I thought you wouldn't mind if I ran in to tell him the news.
About Herman?
Yes. He fell into the Devil's Well in the cave.
He's dead?
Dead as a doornail. This ends our troubles, Carl. The vampire's dead. I can feel it in my bones.
Well, your bones may be wrong. What time did this happen?
Quite early, about 9 o'clock. The cave is nearly 2 hours from here. That's why we didn't hear it sooner.
Well, it may interest you to know that there's been another death after your vampire died.
Who?
Dr. von Niemann's housekeeper. Right here in her own room.
Mother of mercy. What are we going to do?
But a natural death wouldn't kill a vampire, Carl.
Gotta bring that back.
You know the accepted theory. A stake driven through the heart.
Oh, yes, that's the theory, all right.
But...
What?
But they did. They drove a stake through his heart.
Good God, are we living in the Middle Ages?
It wasn't through my sanction, Carl. Basawa did it. He told me so himself.
Well, that ends the vampire theory as far as I'm concerned. Herman Gleib died in the accepted fashion for killing a vampire. Oh, no, there's some human agency at work here, Doctor. A madman who kills to satisfy some violent, sadistic urge.
Yes, you're right, Carl. I've been a fool, a superstitious
really
fool.
quiet right now.
Did they leave his body in the cave?
Yes. Yes, they did.
Well, in view of what's happened, don't you think you owe him a decent burial?
You're right.
Okay, buddy,
In view
you're
of
asking
what
a
has
lot
happened,
of questions.
we do owe him that, Carl. I'll see to it at once, this very instant. And I'll make arrangements for Georgiana's removal to the morgue. Good night, Doctor. Pardon the intrusion.
Good night, Gustav.
Pardon the intrusion.
Pardon the intrusion.
My condolences.
Well, that's what. Yes, I was like
Here I
trying to
am,
think of
just
what
where
that
I
felt
started
like.
weeks ago.
Thank you.
There isn't a single theory that doesn't lead straight into a stone wall. I've jested about this vampire business because my better judgment told me it was a lot of nonsense. Then I reached the point where I was willing to accept even that, because it seemed to satisfy the equation.
All of us are a bit superstitious.
Love that stance.
I don't know which way to turn, where to look, what to look for. Why should anyone want human blood? Why? Why?
Calm yourself, Carl.
Calm myself. Calm myself.
The stares.
With all these
dude,
unsolved
I
murders
love
staring
the
me in the face
banisters
and no solution in sight?
Fucking wild, dude.
How much blood is there in the human body, Doctor?
About 6 liters, approximately.
It's that pretty
Can you
quick.
think of any purpose for which
I
that
don't care
amount
if
of
you
blood
are a
might be
doctor.
used?
No. Not even in transfusions.
That's the point which stops me. There isn't any other use for human blood. Murderers leave clues. And these atrocities are murders, Doctor. Those simple fools in the village can believe what they like, but you and I are sane, thinking people. And you know and I know, Doctor, that these are murders. The last one was done here. In this very house, right under this roof.
Stone face.
All right, I'll start here. I'm going over every foot of this place, both inside and out. Nobody, sane or
Feels like he
insane, is
just
clever
went
enough
to
to get away
Georgia
with
and
murder
had his
without leaving a
mugshot
clue of some sort. And I'm going to find that clue.
He's looking very
You mustn't
defiant
let your
right
nerves run
now.
away with you. Here. These... These
Here,
will
have
help
an
to give you a
aspirin.
good night's sleep.
Have these put sleeping tablets.
If there are any
Just
clues,
scratching off the
they'll
label.
be here in the morning when your nerves are calm.
The
and your
poison's the name of the company, you see.
mind is
Poison.
Take my advice.
Poison
Go home.
brand sleeping tablets.
Rest.
I imagine 1,000 demons were after me as I came down those stairs.
Ruth, didn't I tell you to stay in your room?
Oh, it's
Yes, but I
amazing.
wanted the doctor to come up and quiet Auntie. You know, it isn't her imagination this time.
Of course, Ruth, I'll come right
Give her
away.
a sedative.
Take my advice, young man. Go home and go to bed.
Here, sleeping pills for everybody.
Good night, Carl.
Good night, Ruth.
Good night, Carl.
Good night, Doctor.
Dang, look at that, man. Fucking Spider-Man over here. Please, God, don't let me fall off this roof.
If his lights are on, you must wait, Emil. Wait until he has gone to bed.
You have a long cigarette before bed. Whoa. So quiet, dude.
Yeah,
It's quiet.
Very quiet. It's too
Ooh. The Hat Man. Isn't that a thing? Like Man in a Hat? Like that's like a recurring like night terror that people have.
Yeah, a man wearing a hat.
Yeah, in your room.
Yeah. Hat Man John. He comes in and starts scatting.
Handle him as you did the others, Emil.
Oh.
You are strong. Very strong.
I will it to be so.
I'm
You
waiting
will be
for you.
strong.
Waiting for you to bring him to the laboratory.
I'll come back later. Run, run, run. Jeez. So sinister.
You're the one. What mad thing are you doing?
Mad? Is one who has solved the secret of life to be considered mad? Life, created in the laboratory. No mere crystalline growth, but tissue. Living, growing tissue. Life that moves, pulsates, and demands food for its continued growth. Huh. You shudder in horror. So did I the first time. But what are a few lives be weighed in the balance against the achievement of biological science? Think of it. I have lifted the veil. I have created life. Wrested the secret of life from life. Now do you understand? From the lives of those who have gone before, I have created life.
I'll tell Carl.
You may. For tonight, Carl's name will be added to yours. And all of those whom this achievement will immortalize.
Recognize this?
We recognize that.
Does it look familiar?
That's what it was all along.
The whole time. That may be like the final one we haven't.
Yeah.
From our title. If you don't know, that's a little bit from our title and that.
Yeah.
From our title sequence. I think pretty much every movie in our title sequence we've shown now. This was the last one, I believe.
So he's growing a sea sponge with human blood.
Some kind of. They got a little whirly-gig back there. They had a little something. Ooh, I like that.
I didn't take your sleeping tablets, Doctor.
Like, I'm pretty sure there's a version of this movie that maybe actually has more of a soundtrack.
Emil brought them here. He's the one who murdered them.
Stay where you are. You'll have a chance to tell everything, Doctor.
I'll take care of Von Niemann. Get her out of here.
Gotta get this shit off.
You stay here.
Oh, shit. Dead bodies.
Von Niemann and Emil.
Dr. Von Niemann. Carl, she mustn't see them.
Where is Dr. Van Niemann? I must see him immediately.
Aunt Gussie, you can't. He can't be disturbed.
Oh, but I must see him. I simply must. That hydrous magnesium sulfate he gave me is affecting me most peculiarly. You'll pardon me?
Hydrous magnesium sulfate. Well, that's Epsom salts.
vampire bat. So, what did we think, Evan?
So it turns out the real bat was just that old woman all along.
Wow. You need to go put that review up on IMDb. That says 1,000 words, just that one sentence. That's amazing. I think that perfectly sums it up. That there's only one old bat, and it's Maud Eburn as Aunt Gussie.
Yeah, that movie, that was pretty good. It was for our definitely the best of the Poverty Rows, I would say.
I would definitely agree with that. I think, again, it doesn't deliver on what the title seems to promise.
Yeah, a little bit of a curveball there.
You don't actually get a vampire bat, but you do get a mad scientist who is draining people's blood.
Yeah, he's a
and
vampire
to me,
in a sense.
That's interesting. Like, that's a twist. Like, that's okay. Well, of course, I wasn't expecting it, but it's for mad scientists. You don't necessarily see a vampiric mad scientist who needs blood to do whatever the sponge thing is. I always love that. It's so weird. Like,
yeah, just don't explain it. Just whatever. He's created life. It's a sponge.
Some kind of dead tissue that has been pulsated back into existence. I don't know. Who knows what it is?
It eats blood, I guess.
It does. It does. It needs blood to power up. It's like it's milk,
Yeah.
You gotta have.
That's how we power up. Is when we drink milk.
3 glasses of blood a day.
Right, yeah. You drink 3 glasses of milk a day?
Oh, dude, I have at least one. Okay.
Yeah, I do as well. I'm a big milk proponent.
I am too. Milk.
Start the day off right. Have a good glass of milk.
See, now that's interesting, Evan, because I'm the exact opposite.
Oh,
I
okay.
like to have a glass of milk when I go to bed.
Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also like to put a little Nesquik in there, a little chocolate milk.
There you go.
That's the way I like to end the day.
Yeah, just to put a little bow on the day.
Yeah, man, a little bit of something sweet, and also a little bit of calcium, good for the bones, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, appreciate some good Nesquik at the end of a day, and chocolate. But certainly, I don't know how the doctor in tonight's movie drinks coffee before he.
He said he was drinking coffee at 10 p.m.
Yeah, he's like, I love a good pot of coffee to stay up late, do all these blood experiments. I guess. It was not a complete cop out. I appreciate a mad scientist. So.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that's just one of my favorites. Again, because of the cast, like you just have so many enjoyable actors.
Cast is good. It could be a little chatty, I guess.
It was definitely chatty.
Like it felt like it dragged just a little bit because of that.
And it was weird. Again, I think that's what actually where the low budget shows, because we saw so much that we were like, oh, you wouldn't see this in a Poverty Road low budget movie. But I think it showed in conversations where, much like any other Poverty Road movie, you're forced to do it in one take, one angle. You have to get it all, and you can't do close-ups. That would have made some of the talky scenes a little better if you would have had close-ups. I think the other fault, again, that I find with this movie is the lack of soundtrack, especially at the end, where you have so much action.
Yeah, in like the creepy scenes, it could add, an element to that. But there at the end, it was hurting a little bit for some music.
No, well, and sound in any kind of sound, it's sound effects,
Okay, right.
Anything I definitely music, but even sound effects, there's a lack of, and so going and trying to research this movie online, I read about there's different prints of this movie that went around, some that were shorter, some that were longer, but they had clips from other movies spliced in, which was like people were upset about. But one of the other things I read about was there were Spanish language dubbed prints of this movie where the end has more music and sound effects dubbed over it.
Interesting.
So it makes me wonder, was that just done for that release of the Spanish release of the movie, or is it possible that the print that we have now of this is a soundtrack that just has dialogue and some sound effects and lacks like a musical track with other sound effects? I need to go seek out this Spanish language print and listen to it and see if it's feels genuine to it. But music and sound effects would help the ending for sure. But still, overall atmosphere, premise, cast, I mean, there's a lot to recommend, and there's a reason why I feel like it's underrated. I don't know if would you also use the word? I mean,
I think just at least in the sense of how unknown it is.
I mean, to get it doesn't have a Karloff or a Lugosi. Atwill is not a name in the way that those names are still kind of common. Like if you look up Dracula, you'll get to Bela Lugosi. There's a chance that a lot of people still know about Lugosi. Lionel Atwill, that's more niche. If you're into classic horror movies, you're gonna know about him. So I think that's part of it, but it's still an enjoyable early horror film. And science run amok, which is not what the title promises, but that's something we will see a lot this season on the show, because that's actually exactly what we're going to see next week. Just another case of science run amok. Next week, we're going to be watching the 1959 Japanese-American co-production, The Manster. That is a really bad title for what is a really, again, atmospheric, creepy movie. I've seen this, I think, just once. I believe it was right when I went off to college, and I was kind of blown away. Like, I just thought I was gonna be watching a not good movie, and it was like a lot of atmosphere and style. And it's basically, there's a mad scientist in there, and I don't think I'm spoiling anything if I say that ends up being about a two-headed man. So
okay,
we haven't had, right? Like that's different. We haven't had
a two-headed man yet,
like that on the show. And they do it really well. Like I mean, it's cheesy, but it's good. Like it's like they're going for it, like I mean, so that's the thing you have to appreciate about some of these horror movies, that they're trying to do something a little different. They're trying to push it a little bit. I think next week's film, The Mansters, certainly will do it. I'm very excited I haven't watched it since that first time I watched it. So I'm excited to see it again and see if my opinion still holds up. Do I still think it's that good? It's been about 10 years. So we'll see. We'll see if I still feel the same about it or not. So you can tune in for that next Friday at 9 p.m. Eastern. We will also be back this Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern for our mini-sode. But we're going to be diverting a little bit. Contrary to what I said on the mini-sode last week, I totally forgot that it's a special day on Wednesday.
What day is it?
It is Frankenstein Day.
Oh, yeah.
August 30th, Frankenstein Day. So, of course, we have to celebrate with some Frankenstein-specific media, and we're busting out with what is probably the most, like, I don't want to say it's the most Kevin Bacon-y thing in the degrees of it, but it is so wild for our mini-sodes specifically how it's Frankenstein Day, so we're watching a teleplay of Frankenstein, which is it's only 30 minutes long, much like all the other things we watch for our minisodes. But it stars Lon Chaney Jr. It also stars John Newland, who was our host for One Step Beyond. Lon Chaney's now our host for this season's minisodes, 13 Demon Street. So it's kind of weird how we're bringing these two together for a live teleplay of Frankenstein, which horror aficionados, classic horror aficionados will know went horribly wrong. Not to like be too harsh or anything, but the accepted opinion is that Lon Chaney wasn't prepared. And what do I mean by that? You can find out on Wednesday. It's a lot of fun. And it's Frankenstein. We're getting, you know, anytime Lon Chaney plays Frankenstein monster, it's a good time. So we're going to have a blast celebrating Frankenstein Day. So please join us at 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday for that. Of course, you can go catch up on any of our past episodes on YouTube. We're over there at Screamstream Live. Go over there, like, subscribe. Please check out all the good stuff. We've got some shorts. We've got some, if you love our cartoons. If you love our cartoons, we have plenty of cartoons in a compilation. You know, all of our pre-rolls, we show some creepy stuff. So you can go find all of those over on our YouTube page. We're also over on Twitter and Instagram at, I say Twitter, I guess it's X now. Is that?
Do we have to call it that?
I guess we have to. We're over on
the
Instagram.
Site formerly known as Twitter.
And the site formerly known as Twitter at Screamstream Show. You can find me over on Twitter at Spakenstein, and Mr. Evan Sink is on Twitter and Instagram at Caligari Cursed. We're also over on TikTok at Screamstream Show. So, you know, we branched out. We're trying to we got to be on the talk. We got to stay relevant. So
that's where the kids are now.
That's where the kids are. We gotta be cool. So yeah, we're over there. But thanks everybody so much for watching tonight. Season 7 premiere started out with a good one. So a lot of creepy stuff ahead as we get into spooky season. So again, appreciate everybody tuning in, chatting tonight. Timur Korea, of course, Sylarn in for a little bit. Appreciate it as always. Anything before we sign off tonight, Evan?
You know, I think if I had to score this film, put some music on it, I think I'd go with some slide guitar, really play up that sponge angle. Little SpongeBob blood pants.
Doesn't get much more fun than that, does it? On that note, sweet screams, everybody.
And to all, a good fright.